Hello, this is Edna White, and I am so glad you're with me today. Listen, are you a victim of spiritual overconsumption? What do you mean by that, Edna? Are you shopping for spiritual solutions like you would shop for clothes? So you try on your spiritual outfit, wear it for a while, and then move on to the next one? In some way, all your spiritual clothes seem to fit. However, after wearing them for a while, you don't really truly feel that you have a cohesive wardrobe that works for you. Now, why am I talking like that? Listen, it's like this. You just have put on these clothes and you want to find a solution, whether it be, I want to find a husband, I want money, I want my family to be okay, I want the things that I did to be, that comes with consequences to be washed out. So each of those situations requires an outfit. Like when you go to church, like there's different days, like Missionary Day, or Young People's Day, or Easter, or Christmas. Every one of those are outfits, every one of them. And we wear them because we want to make a fashion statement that truly signifies who we are, so that we can ask for what we want with hopes to get what we ask for. But you keep wondering and wondering, or wondering and wandering, probably those two, that you will find yourself in all of this and be able to express yourself truly through a statement. If this sounds like you, then you may be a victim of spiritual overconsumption. And you know my rule, audience, internet best friends. Anything too much or over the top is error. On my way home from Cancun yesterday, my son was driving me, and I passed this church, and I have a sign up, and it said, God is looking for spiritual fruits, not religious nuts. That summed up the whole experience of being a victim of spiritual overconsumption. In our society, we are given the knowledge that knowledge is king, right? We're taught the value of education as the king of all. Not that education isn't important, because it is. However, knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge feeds the ego. Wisdom feeds the soul. If you're constantly going from one spiritual practice or one spiritual experience after another, and you're not getting a full understanding of that one thing, then you have been affected. You have not been in line with wisdom. Now, let's take knowledge, right? Knowledge is something that you can acquire, and it's important in some way. It's street knowledge, it's education, it's social knowledge. All of those things are great. Makes you feel good, right? But the practice of wisdom is part of learning from the experience that you don't get when you get dressed up to ask the entity God, or the higher power, or some higher personnel like a clergy, to forgive your sins, to grant this wish that I'm looking for, make this happen. When all it takes is telling yourself, listen, I did this wrong. And owning up to it, that the part that you did wrong, owning up to that part. Letting your ego not be soothed this time. Then given into the wisdom of learning from the lesson. What did I learn from being over the top with my yelling and screaming with my daughter? What did I learn from over mothering my child? What did I learn for not having a budgeting plan, right? So that I can pay my bills on time instead of robbing Paul to pay Peter, which is not in the Bible, by the way, and which is not even right. But you have to be open to have the wisdom. And if you don't have it, guess what you got to do? You got to ask somebody who does have it. You got to be able to trust someone that they can give you the value you need to step on that ego and say, oh, you're doing this because because of that. We may not like wisdom because it shows up and it really shows out and it shows us ourselves. Knowledge just adds something on a piece of paper to make us look good. But wisdom is all the way deep within and it glows all the way out. It's just that simple. So what is an ego-led spiritual search? You have a problem, you know the issue, and so you search for solutions based on what you feel is the root of your problem. Not many people ask for divine guidance. They ask for the solution without getting the divine guidance. Not people let go and surrender to the answers from within, especially if they have some type of education in hard sciences. Even when they do have an opening for their divine inner guidance, whether knowingly or not, they stop it by over-analyzing the point. Or they go and ask everyone outside of themselves for the answer. And let me tell you, they're giving their answer on their experience, not on your experience. Because your child is not their child. Although they may have a child, even the same age, even the same female, or male, or they may have the same type of child, but it's not the same with the same experiences. You can't undress that. So they're going to give you an answer that's from their experience, not from yours. You have to call upon the experience, the inner wisdom, the divine guidance, listening with your ear, not listening from the outer ear, but from the inner ear of the soul. You may have experienced something, like say you had a hard time and you see this happening in your family, mental health issues. So you go to school to be a mental health practitioner. That's life-changing, right? Yet, it doesn't have any impetus if you are not deep within yourself and making changes. See, people want to teach, but they don't want to be taught. People want to be heard, but they don't want to listen. People want to guide, but are not willing to be guided. That's a great leader. That's a great example of letting your ego not lead your spiritual search. When you get rid of ego, you are on a spiritual journey, not a search. Two different things. See, listening to the inner guidance in your life, hearing from the inner ear, from the heart to the ear, you hear something that has a lot to do with wise words that keep you, that ground you, and that will radiate out of you, and will not have your ego bolster up for anything. And most people, when they are ego-led in a spiritual search, they let that ego move them along and never learn forgiveness or apologies, never learning that I made a mistake and this is my part of the mistake. They never learn not to blame. So I want you to remember that in order to be on your spiritual journey instead of the ego-led spiritual search, I want you to remember to ask the inner voice for guidance. And forgive yourself if you heard it before and didn't listen. Then there's the creative world around us. Another thing that one must understand is that we are living in a creative world. If you don't understand or don't want to embrace this, then your ego is leading you to that conclusion. All right? And everything that you hear and absorb and kind of respond to is not necessarily true or correct. When in a world where you create your realities, there is no answer for everyone. Everyone doesn't have the same answer. We have so many methods to heal and so many ways to express ourselves as a result of the manifestation of power of an individual. And I'll give you a perfect example. How hatred has been ushered in to anything. In the U.S., the hatred of one man speaking it out, led others to be able to speak it out and be okay with speaking it out. Okay? Then it could be another leader speaking kindness and leadership and divinity, and that ushers in the spiritualness of the world. We are so very creative with the words that we speak, things that we say, the things that we think, and the way that we vibrate. Now, from an ego perspective, multiple solutions lend themselves to the very being that there's only one right choice. So if you're in a situation or a ego-led spiritual search, you would only say there's only one choice. If you're led on your spiritual journey, there are many realities of healing. There's many ways that many people come to the wisdom that they need. From a spiritual perspective, this lends itself to the very being, only many paths to divinity. So there's many paths. Perfect example. I was avidly staunched in Pentecostal apostolic religion. And that's where I kind of grew up and learned, okay? On my journey as a English, as a second language teacher, I was stationed in China for 1 year. Now in my practices, I love culture. I love to go out and be involved in culture, get to know people, and get to enjoy them. I visited Confucius's castle, and in that castle is a little room that they have his life kind of mapped out. And I noticed that one of the instances, or one of the drawings, was from his birth, and over his where he was born, it wasn't a manger, but where he was born was a star. And instead of 3 men, I think there were 5 or something to that effect. More than the 3 that we're told in Christianity. And they were there bringing gifts to them, And I was like, wait a minute, this is the way that Jesus came. How could he be? Is this a copy? And I said this to my friend, this can't be real. And I just kept looking at the similarities in their lives. And I'm like, this can't be Confucius. And my friend, who is Chinese, just laughed. Did you think that the Westerners had the only way to divinity? And I said, well, you don't believe in God, right? She says, of course we do. We just don't use him as much as the Westerners do. We know that we're given great gifts on the inside of us. If there's things that we can't do, we pray for those things we can't do. But if we can do something with our hands and our feet and our mind and our mouths, we can get it done. I thought that was so apropos for me to change immediately. I stopped crying because I was crying. I couldn't believe it. And I understood. Divinity has so many paths. And if someone chooses, or someone says to you that we are the way, the truth and the light, only us, guaranteed somebody else is saying that. Guaranteed somebody else is saying that. But there's so many ways to divinity. Don't get stuck in the rut to not to love someone or appreciate another religion. I'm not saying practice it all, because I didn't practice it all. I learned about them all so that I can get an understanding and be a little bit more educated and a little bit more powerful, empowered. So there's so many ways to divinity. You can ask yourself, divine guidance. Sometimes it may be overwhelming, but if you take it a small piece at a time, you can take on the innate connection to the divine. Because you can be the master of your spiritual ship. No one has to be the rowing and taking charge of your ship. No one, because you can be that master. You become the master of your world. Of course, there's steps, and there's a step-by-step process. It begins with a steady letting go of your ego and allowing yourself to become. Now, there's divine inner guidance. To start your journey, ask your source, whatever you call your source, God, higher power, whatever you call your source, to guide you to one spiritual practice you need to do above all else. Now that may mean yoga may be your spiritual guidance. It may be meditation may be your guidance. It's a practice that gets you to connect with yourself and not pray about other people or pray for other people. Because honestly, what do you know about praying for someone else? You don't know their journey. You don't know what they want. When you are connected with yourself, then you know what to say and do. Be open to how and when it comes to you. More importantly, if you're asking to get answers, ask one at a time. Take it step by step. And then when you're not receiving the answer, you need to stop worrying about it until it comes. And then be open to receive it. Don't be like, no, that can't be it. Yeah, it's that. Be open to receive it. When you focus on not having the answer, you close the door on receiving. Relax, breathe, and tell yourself you have the answer. That opens the doors for divine guidance. When you receive your answer, you can write it in a journal, scream it out loud, say it into your phone, record it, take a picture, and whatever the answer is, you can see place for it every day. Steps to it. As I receive guidance, it goes into my journal and I write things down. And I don't even go back to it. I just write it down and I don't even go back to it. And then maybe years later, or maybe even months later, it comes, let me open this up and flow through it again. And sure enough, those answers that I've received steps to it along the way to get to accomplish it even more. It's the same thing is the way that we see vision boards. It's the same concept. I really want to do a tree. I want to take a tree, and every time I get an answer that I want to kind of make it a leaf. Do you know what I mean? To make it really something important to me. The vision board is more, however, direct. It's directed by your desire. So whatever you desire, it's directed by that. So if you always see that, you're always going to see what your desires are. Spiritual guidance is given to you from the divine within. So I don't want you to be confused. Don't even ask for clarification. Ask yourself for clarification. Write your clarification question down in your journal. When you feel confused, write the question down. And then set a reminder to always check yourself. Check. Did the answer come yet? Take time to hear the answer. In doing this, and this is the end part, I will tell you, in doing this practice does not mean that you do not listen to podcasts, attend webinars, or do other activities that pique your interest. You continue on your life, working, taking care of your children, taking care of your husband, your home, decluttering, just enjoying the experience of life. But just remember, you're driven to this. You're always going to come back to what you want to have the answer for. You're driven to it. So focus on your practice, whatever practice it is that gives you that divine inner feeling. Not reading, but something that connects you to your body. So it could be just silence. It doesn't have to be anything else. It could have 5 to 20 minutes or 5 minutes to an hour session of just being quiet and being aware of you. This process started me on my process to release the ego. And it gets you into the habit of connecting to the divine within you. You see, it opens up spiritual awakenings, and it opens up the connection between the spirit inside of you. And it's all one step at a time. This is when you are truly walking in your spiritual power. I hope today you got something out of, are you a victim of spiritual overconsumption? Because I don't want you to be in error in any type of way, tribe. I want you to be awesome at your practice, awesome at what you do, awesome at who you are. Because we're all individuals, and we all have something to contribute to this world. Now, if you want help with this, all you need is one session with me. Click the link in the comment section of the video. Click the link and sign up for my free session, and we can talk about overconsumption in the spiritual realm. We could talk about that, and I will give you some steps to get you moving towards real enlightenment of who you are and truly walking in your spiritual power. This is Edna White saying goodbye for now. Thank you for being here with me.